Are you looking to learn or improve your English speaking skills? Then you've come to the right place, because listening to our English podcasts will help you improve your English and boost your confidence. By listening to our podcasts, you can become familiar with important and commonly used words. Today we will discuss about how to improve spoken English. So, without further delay, let's get started.
Amy, you speak English so fluently. I really wish I could improve my spoken English like you. Do you have any tips for me?
Thanks, William. I'm happy to help. Improving your spoken English is definitely possible with some focused practice. But first, tell me, what part of speaking English do you find most challenging?
Amy, I think it's my fluency. When I speak, I pause too much because I'm always trying to find the right words. And sometimes I get nervous about making grammar mistakes. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, I used to struggle with that a lot. Pausing and feeling unsure about what to say is pretty common when learning a language. But the key is to keep practicing. It's not about being perfect, it's about becoming comfortable with speaking, even if it means making a few mistakes.
That makes sense, but how do I practice if I don't have many opportunities to speak English regularly? I don't have many English-speaking friends, and it feels awkward to start a conversation out of nowhere.
I understand. But you don't need a lot of people to practice with. In fact, you can start by talking to yourself. I know it sounds strange, but it's a great way to build confidence. For example, narrate your day in English or describe what you're doing as if you're explaining it to someone.
Talking to myself? That's interesting. I've never thought of that. But do you think it will really help?
Absolutely. When you talk to yourself, you're training your brain to think in English. You're not worried about making mistakes because no one's listening. It's a stress-free way to practice, and you can also record yourself speaking. That way you can listen back and notice areas where you want to improve.
That's a great idea. I'll give it a try. But what about vocabulary? I feel like I use the same words over and over again. I want to sound more varied, but I don't know how to expand my vocabulary.
Expanding vocabulary is crucial for fluency. One of the best ways to learn new words is by reading. When you read books, articles, or even news in English, you'll come across words you don't usually use. Make a habit of noting them down, looking up their meanings, and trying to use them in your daily conversations.
That sounds useful. I've read some books in English, but I usually skip over the words I don't know. I guess I should start paying more attention to them.
Exactly. And don't just note the words down, try using them. The more you use a word, the more natural it'll become. Also, you can try learning words in context. For example, if you learn a new word related to food, try using it next time you talk about meals or cooking.
Yeah, I can see how that would work. But here's another issue I face: pronunciation. Sometimes I get stuck on how to pronounce certain words. Do you have any tips for improving pronunciation?
Oh, pronunciation is definitely something a lot of people struggle with. One way to improve is by listening closely to native speakers. You can watch movies, listen to podcasts, or even follow English-speaking YouTubers. Pay attention to how they pronounce words, the rhythm of their speech, and their intonation. And don't be afraid to mimic them.
Mimic them? You mean like copying their accents?
Exactly. You don't need to adopt their accent fully, but mimicking the way they speak helps you get the right rhythm and sound of English. It's like learning a melody. Once you know the tune, it's easier to sing along. You can even slow down videos to focus on pronunciation.
That's an interesting approach. I think I'll try mimicking some actors from my favorite movies. But what about online resources? Are there any apps or websites that can help me with pronunciation?
Definitely. There are plenty of apps like Forvo, Elsa Speak, and Youglish, where you can hear how native speakers pronounce specific words. You can even practice speaking into these apps, and they'll give you feedback. It's like having a personal coach at your fingertips.
That sounds amazing. I'll check them out. But here's another question. How important is grammar when speaking? Should I focus on getting my grammar perfect, or is fluency more important?
Great question. When it comes to speaking, fluency is definitely more important than perfect grammar. Don't get me wrong, grammar is important, but when you're in a conversation, the goal is to communicate clearly, not to be flawless. Native speakers themselves make grammar mistakes all the time in casual speech.
Really? I didn't realize that. I've always been so focused on making sure my grammar is perfect. Maybe that's why I hesitate when speaking.
Exactly. Don't let grammar hold you back. As long as people understand what you're trying to say, minor mistakes don't matter much. The more you speak, the more your grammar will naturally improve. Just focus on getting your message across confidently.
That's a relief to hear. I think I've been putting too much pressure on myself to speak perfectly, but how do I build confidence? I still get nervous when I speak English, especially in front of native speakers.
Confidence comes with practice, William. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll feel. Start by speaking in low-pressure situations like practicing with friends or talking to yourself. Once you feel more confident, gradually challenge yourself by speaking in more formal situations, like at work or with strangers.
I guess that makes sense. But do you ever get nervous even now that you're fluent?
Oh, for sure. It's normal to feel nervous, especially if you're speaking in front of a group or discussing a complex topic. But the key is to push through that nervousness. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Confidence is built step by step. By step.
I see. It's like building a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate your progress. Even small improvements are worth acknowledging. That positive reinforcement will help boost your confidence even more.
Thanks, Amy. This has been really helpful. I feel more motivated now. But do you think practicing with a language partner would be useful?
Definitely. Practicing with a partner is one of the best ways to improve. You can have real conversations, correct each other's mistakes, and even learn from each other's experiences. Have you tried joining any language exchange programs or conversation clubs?
Not yet. I've been a little shy about it, to be honest. I worry that people will judge me if I make mistakes.
I get that. It's natural to feel nervous, but remember, everyone in those groups is there for the same reason: to improve. No one's going to judge you for making mistakes. In fact, they'll probably appreciate that you're trying. Plus, making mistakes is part of the learning process.
That's true. I suppose I should stop worrying so much about being perfect. So how do I find these language partners or clubs?
There are tons of online platforms where you can find language partners. Websites like Tandem, HelloTalk, and Italki connect you with people who want to practice English or who speak English and want to learn your language. You can have text or voice conversations, and some platforms even offer video calls.
That sounds perfect. I'll definitely give it a try. What about practicing English in daily life? Are there any habits I can develop that will help me improve even when I'm not in a conversation?
Great question. Immersing yourself in English is key. Try to think in English as much as possible. For example, when you're walking down the street, describe what you see in English in your mind. When you're doing daily tasks, think about how you would explain them in English.
That's an interesting idea. I usually think in my native language, but I guess switching to English could really help.
Exactly. It's all about making English part of your everyday life. Also, try listening to English podcasts or audiobooks while you're commuting or doing chores. Even if you're not speaking, you're still training your brain to get used to the language.
I've listened to a few English podcasts before, but I often find them hard to follow. They speak so fast. How do you keep up?
It can be challenging at first. If the podcasts feel too fast, start with ones that are designed for learners. They tend to speak more slowly and clearly. You can also use the playback speed feature to slow down regular podcasts until you get more comfortable. And don't worry if you don't understand everything, just focus on the general meaning at first.
That's a good tip. I'll try slowing them down. Do you think watching English movies or series helps too?
Definitely. Watching movies and series in English is a great way to improve. Not only does it help with listening skills, but it also teaches you natural phrases, slang, and idiomatic expressions that you might not find in textbooks. You can start with subtitles in your native language, then switch to English subtitles as you get more comfortable.
Got it. So to sum up, I should practice speaking every day, expand my vocabulary, work on pronunciation, and build confidence by talking to myself and others. Did I miss anything?
That's pretty much it. Just remember to enjoy the process. Learning a language is fun, and the more you immerse yourself in it, the faster you'll improve. Oh, and one last thing, don't forget to be patient with yourself. Progress takes time, but if you stay consistent, you'll see results.
Thanks, Amy. I feel much more confident and ready to take my spoken English to the next level.
You are welcome.